We talk PS5 rumors, Nintendo Switch gets a bevy of releases this week, and we talk about Days Gone on episode 4 of the Gaming Casuals podcast. Well, welcome to the Gaming Casuals podcast. We are your hosts, John, Brandon, and Zach. We've got a lot to talk about today, but first, we really like doing this podcast with you guys, so if you don't mind, go to YouTube and subscribe to us, hit the notification bell. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the whole nine. So hit us up, let us know what you think of the podcast. We're constantly thinking of new stuff to bring to the table. We'll let you know what you guys think. But with that, guys, what are we playing this week? Let's talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I've been playing kind of a random assortment of PC games. That's taken up about 10% of my time and gaming time, and then 90% of my time has been spent on Sekiro. So I was just talking about
one-trick pony. You sound like, Zach.
Yeah, I really am. I was just talking to Brandon about I don't typically play games this like focused, but yeah, it's definitely continued to capture my attention.
So how far are you on it though?
Yeah, so I'm on my third playthrough.
Whoa.
Going on fourth.
See, I can't fathom like New Game plus. I barely can get into New Game Plus, just enough to see how powerful I am at the very beginning of the game.
I do have a question, though. For those of you who don't know about New Game Plus, how long does it take you to play through Sekiro, would you say, on an hour basis?
Gosh,
that's a good question.
Maybe like 12 to 15 hours for your first playthrough, but the game is very much like progression is you learning the like maps and the moves and stuff. So the second playthrough is probably even less than half the time that you spent on the first playthrough. So
what about that difficulty? Does it like, how big is the exponential damage increase, or like what is the challenges there?
Yeah.
Is it a big deal to go to New Game Plus from New Game?
Yeah, so because like I would say like 75% of the challenge is just knowing the game, it's still less of a challenge. But there's scaling with it gets harder, enemies hit harder, health pools, you get more experience, that kind of thing. So it definitely scales up with you. But ultimately, like any From Software game is just like understanding the characters and maps.
That makes more sense. I didn't realize that it was a lot less the second time, third time. I was thinking like, man, we're playing like a 30-hour campaign each time. This is crazy.
It's all about like what you know in that game.
Okay.
But at the risk of turning this podcast into a Sekiro
the Sekiro gaming podcast,
I'll talk about a couple other games that I've been playing. I've played a lot of Vermintide 2 for PC. This is like a PvE co-op survival game. It's very close to Left 4 Dead. This is the first Warhammer game that I've ever gotten into, but it's super fun. Lots of RPG elements. It goes deep. There's lots of progression. If you miss Left 4 Dead and you love Warhammer, it's an incredible game. And then I allowed myself to also get stuck in Civilization 6 again. And the interesting thing that I noticed about Civilization 6 this time was the gameplay is fun, but it's kind of the whole experience. So like once you get in there, you're like, there's history and music and narration. Sean Bean talking to you about these like beautiful
Does he die
quotes.
later?
Yeah, right. Yes. Anyway, Civilization 6 is great, and they support cross saves with the Switch version.
That's cool.
So I guess I'm
really
gonna
nice.
buy it twice.
So what is Civilization 6 for those who don't know what that game is?
Yes, I'm sure like hardcore Civilization fans are sitting here listening to this being like, oh gosh, he got into his first strategy game. But
So cute.
it's the first time I've ever gotten into a strategy game. It's big simulation. They call them 4X games. And you manage your cities, you manage resources, you can win by like a multiple different kinds of way. Like you can win through economic warfare, influence, religious. So you can kind of choose the way you play that game, but it's steeped in history. So like every nation you can play basically.
Is it similar to like a real-time strategy, or is it turn-based?
It's definitely turn-based, and it's not focused around war, so it's not live action. It's very much like almost like a board game kind of situation.
Gotcha.
So I've never really understood it, and then there was one day where I'm like, I need a chill strategy game to get into, and while it took me about 6 tutorial videos on YouTube to like understand how to play the game, it's one of the best games I've ever played. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
So for myself, I haven't had a lot of time to play games this week. We had a lot of big like Easter production at my church, and so I haven't been on games a whole lot. But this past couple weeks, I've really been enjoying the bevy of Switch releases that have come out. I have been playing Cuphead and I've been playing, I guess, Final Fantasy X, and then I've also been playing a little bit of Smash Brothers. We had new DLC. But as for me, like, that's pretty much the extent of my gaming this week. Brandon, what have you been playing this week?
Yeah, so actually, a lot of my stuff has been through Game Pass again, because it's a great place to go. Shadow of the Tomb Raider still trying to work my way through that. Talked about that last time. I'm about 60% of the way there. I actually been playing a lot of Celeste too. I don't know if you guys have tried that.
Have you liked it?
Nice.
I love Celeste. Okay, it's funny. I bought it on the Switch back in December, and everybody's talking about how amazing it was. It was at the Game Awards, and I was really wanting to try it out. And I could not get really into it at first. I thought, this doesn't seem like what everybody's talking about with the story, how it's supposed to be really great. And it was really tough to get into at first. And then I kept pushing my way through. It came out on Xbox as a free Games with Gold. And I was like, okay, I'll try it there too. And playing on the big screen was a lot of fun because I was playing on handheld mode on the Switch. And something clicked once I got through and halfway through, and the music was great the whole time. Story started to get more developed, and the gameplay really is a lot of fun. So I've been playing with that. I really enjoyed the fact that there's an assist mode if you want to.
Right.
So that's something, I think I talked about this last time with my son. He's 3.5, and I turned that on for him because he loved seeing that. He thought it was Mario. I was like, no, buddy, it's not Mario. But I turned that on for him, and it was great because the assist mode is for people who have trouble with some of the mechanics, and it doesn't let you die if you fall off the stage. It'll just bounce you back up, unlimited stamina, so you can do your dashes across everything. And he had some fun just goofing off on that. Of course, he wasn't doing some of the intense mechanics of that game, but it was fun just for him to enjoy that. So
are
playing
are you saying that a easier difficulty allows you to actually experience the game for some people?
In some cases, yes. Now, I have not played it with assist mode on. I have been doing it the regular way, but it is nice because it doesn't have that barrier there for people who want to play and may not be able to.
Yeah.
And it's nice too because you could totally cheese the game and get all the achievements with assist mode on, but it's there. It's there if you need it. And in fact, there's a couple of things collectible-wise that they even tell you in the game. It's like, hey, there are these strawberries you can collect in the game. It doesn't do anything at all. It is just fun to tell your friends, hey, I got all of these things.
Strawberries.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool they have that because for me when I start that path of trying to 100% a game, I have to keep going. At first on the Switch, I was like, I don't need to get that. It's fine. On the Xbox, I did try and go through just because I wanted to. I feel like I owed it to myself because I tried it on the Switch, and now on the Xbox, the big screen on the 4K TV. It was like, I want to try all these little things I didn't do. So,
have you ever heard of Korok seeds?
Oh my goodness!
You'll never finish.
You'll love Korok seeds.
Oh my goodness! I think
Legend
I've
of Zelda,
got
for those who
200.
don't know.
I don't even know. Yeah, that was there like 900 something.
Yeah, 900.
Yeah, no, not for me. I can't do that. But I was doing that, and then there was one more game I played last night. It came out a while ago. Mirror's Edge Catalyst.
Yeah.
I heard that it wasn't greatly reviewed when it came out, but it was really exciting because Mirror's Edge was a game I loved, the first one. Just the first person. It's a first person free running game where you can do all kinds of moves, trying to make your way through a stage. It's limited on combat. It's mainly encouraging you to get from A to B as quick as possible. A sequel was finally made after many, many years, and it was different. It was more of an open world game, which I did not expect. The first one's very linear, and playing it last night, it was something that I was fun to jump into that world again and experience that. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to keep going on that. It was just the whole open world thing is kind of cool, but just doesn't really fit that game right now. Or at least I haven't gotten into it yet.
Didn't
so
grab
we'll
you
see.
the same way.
Yeah, so we'll see.
From an outsider's perspective, Catalyst looked like the result of a game that was extremely innovative for its time, and then they tried to iterate on that, and it didn't work, mainly because of the environment that they released in.
Yes.
But it sounds like the framework of the game was completely different as well.
It's a little bit. Yeah, that was something that I played it. I was like, oh, it's so excited. Mirror's Edge is back. I loved that first one.
Yeah.
And it's still, a lot of those elements are there, but it just hasn't aged well. I think just certain of the mechanics weren't super tight. I was grateful that you could change the controls in there because some of the controls you move up or down, and you use the left bumper and left trigger to go up or down. And I kept wanting to jump with A because that's how
it's
you.
tough for a game with like a really radically different dynamic than most games. Like I never thought free running would be a game that I would play. I like the original Mirror's Edge, but it wasn't enough to get into Catalyst.
So it was good. It was a free thing for me because it was on EA Access. So
I will be checking out Celeste for sure.
Yes.
I kind of have a hard time with like flat indie games like that, despite how much I loved Hollow Knight. But I know Celeste won like all the game of the year.
And that soundtrack, I listen to that soundtrack through Apple Music all the time. Like it's such a good.
It was a big nom
soundtrack.
for BAFTAs too. For those of you guys who heard it last time we had a podcast.
Yep.
But it's fun stuff.
Excellent. Well, speaking of big releases coming out, we've had some PlayStation 5 rumors.
Yes.
I think PlayStation is due for an upgrade, but interesting to see what they're going to do with that.
So actually, I think they just came out with some specs, which is funny because I feel like they did that with Xbox One X. They came out with some of the specs early on before they announced it. So they haven't really announced the PlayStation, the next generation PlayStation. They're not even calling it PS5. It's just the next gen console. But I believe the lead designer or the lead architect, systems architect, I think it was Mark Cerny or something. I think is what it said. He came out and actually spoke about some of the future tech for the next gen console.
So what is going to be in this new PlayStation?
So it's interesting. Yeah, they are going with some beefy specs there as far as graphics card and processor. One of the big things, it's going to be an SSD, they're saying, in there, which is huge.
Great.
Yeah, that's
but
something.
Also up the price significantly, right?
They haven't talked about price yet. They did say that as far as price, they're trying to be competitive with that. They didn't lean on what it is yet because it's still early. They haven't officially announced it, and they're probably not going to at E3 unless they do some kind of like own Nintendo Direct style thing on their own. But I think the rumors are it's going to be 2020, probably into 2020 is what it looks like, which seems like I think Xbox is leaning that way too for their future console. But price, it is going to be expensive as far as the hardware inside. So it'll be interesting to see if they do stick around a $500 price range. I know that when the PS3 came out, they kind of missed the boat on that price-wise, and it was way overpriced.
Right.
PS4, they definitely they took the gauntlet there for that, whereas the Xbox overshot that on price. So I hope that all the consoles have learned their lesson about pricing and make it fit a lot of people's budgets, because you can throw a bunch of hardware into the mix, but at the end of the day, if you're not going to sell consoles because of the price, then what's the for? So
what do you think the market is for a high-end console like that? Because I mean, I don't have an 8K TV.
Yeah,
I just got a 4K TV.
I know, just a 4K. It sounds crazy
so
nowadays.
like I don't have a lot of like stock, and I'm so used to 1080p games.
Yes.
What is the market going to be? Do you think it's going to sell well for an 8K console?
It's going to be interesting because that's one of the things that they did talk about. It's going to be 8K ready, which I mean, we're just getting used to 4K, which is something that's interesting. I know it's the future, and they're future-proofing it, which is smart. But yeah, if they are pricing it where this is their only console they're coming out with, and it's going to be a $600 console, they're going to miss a lot of potential gamers, because you're right, a lot of people aren't the first early adopters that have 8K TVs that are going to take advantage of it. I mean, I got a 4K TV last year, the same time I got an Xbox One X, because I really was excited about it. And I had waited so long to actually jump into that because I wanted to make sure the price was right. I mean, there's no way I'm upgrading to an 8K TV anytime soon. So taking advantage of that, it just depends on where the market is. But I think if they do it right as far as the price, there's some really cool things. I think they also had talked about 3D audio. They're doing a lot with that. Some of the processors and graphics cards, I don't want to jump into the weeds on that, but some of the things they're able to do, I saw a video about one of the technologies, ray tracing. It's kind of it's how they can shine light around objects, and it's something that's usually, from what I was reading, it's usually reserved for like still images and things that aren't necessarily fast-pacing video games, but seeing some video of what ray tracing can be and other benefits of that, you can see reflections on things in real time.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So
Radion's actually, there hasn't been a whole lot of ray tracing in video games up to this point, but ray tracing has been touted as, hey, buy this video card and you get ray tracing compatibility. So it's pretty amazing what they have lined up for the PS5. It definitely sets the tone for developers to be able to look at this and really decide what they can do. This is essentially what they've listed as the equivalent to a like mid to high end PC that you would custom build now. The Ryzen 2 is a great processor. AMD has done a great job over the past 5 to 10 years of kind of creeping up on Intel with processors and capturing that like low to mid market. And now they have just really powerful stuff at a little lower of a price. A lot of people are talking about Intel like they talk about Apple, where there's an Apple tax, where there's, you got a premium product. It's all high end. It's really costly. So it's kind of a big deal that Sony went with AMD on this. And we've even seen Apple start choosing AMD. So that's pretty cool. And if I had to compare with PS4 Pro at all, it's usually either 8K or frame rate, right? So like you're trading off. So the big thing in PC gaming is there's not really anything out there that can consistently run 4K plus 60 frames per second or 4K plus 150 frames. It's at the very, very, very high end. So even if you knock this down to 4K and were to say you can run games at 60 frames per second, that would be a huge feat, especially for a console. Yeah. So I think there is a market. I mean, I think console gamers are a market. Mm-hmm. PC gamers will probably look at this and be like, I will just continue to upgrade my PC.
Yeah, exactly.
But the same people playing like PlayStation, Nintendo, anything now, console gamers, will look at this and be like, oh my gosh, I can experience games at a whole new level. When I started playing PC games with this kind of hardware, it completely changed everything.
I hear that even games like Destiny on the PC, you're running at 60 frames a second, like locked in, versus on the consoles which are 30, and they say it's a different game in PvP. That's something that I've not experienced yet because I've been a console guy. Yeah. So it is interesting to see these PC level of quality in future consoles. I know Xbox is definitely set up to have an incredible console. One of the things that's interesting is with this console, this next gen console, it seems like they're only going with one SKU. That's what it seems like. Whereas Xbox has definitely talked about a lower end and a higher end model, kind of like the Xbox One S, Xbox One X. So it's interesting to see where they all will play out when all the dust settles. Will the PS5, will that actually be in the middle hardware-wise, but priced way better than what Xbox might do? How will that work out? So it's going to be interesting. One other thing, too, I mentioned
Very
SSD. There is going to be backwards compatibility with PS4,
nice.
Which is huge.
That is a big thing.
Yes. Xbox really nailed that with the Xbox One with their backwards compatibility program, and I think PlayStation fans want that same thing, so they're making it where PS4 games are compatible. The other thing too, SSD built in. I hope that's a standard for all consoles going forward, because I think they were testing out with the PS4 Pro and Spider-Man, and it was like a 15-second load time, which doesn't sound like a lot. You compare that with the next gen console, it was less than a second load time. So with an SSD, so
that's great.
Pretty cool stuff.
Well, speaking of PS4, kind of like where we are with exclusives and with gaming content, PS4 had a big release this week. It was Days Gone.
Oh, yeah.
What I want to know is, from a PS4 gamer, like, should I buy Days Gone or should I leave it alone? Like, what's going on with Days Gone?
Yeah,
what is it all about?
There's kind of a expectation of PlayStation exclusives at this point, and the expectation is you're going to be really good.
Right. Yeah.
God of War was incredible. Bloodborne was incredible before that, and the numerous other Spider-Man that you just mentioned. So there was a lot riding on the shoulders of this, and on the outside, it kind of looked like just another zombie game or another Left 4 Dead or Last of Us. It looked very familiar in multiple different ways, and that was everyone's concern. Is like, is this going to be too familiar? Is this going to be played out? And it came out, and that's the deal. Yeah. So it's a lot of features that you're familiar with. It's like a hodgepodge of different games. So like third person shooting, zombies. They call them freakers. They're not zombies.
Interesting branding decision.
Yes.
Decision.
Yeah. I think that's garnered more attention than the actual game itself. But it's sitting at a 74 on Metacritic right now. It came out April 26th. So as of this recording, it was yesterday. So I'm sure that'll change. I haven't played it myself. I probably will at least check it out, but I do know that it's good from a mechanic standpoint, but it's not doing anything too crazy with it.
It's not innovating, I guess, on that genre.
Yeah,
so.
I'll be looking forward to more thoughts and reviews and gameplay. I might check it out. I tend to have a little bit more forgiveness with Sony exclusives. I'm cool. It's got to be pretty.
It's got to be something because of all the other behind it.
So
as far as Sony stuff going on, on this week, I think we failed to mention, which I want to mention now, like Nintendo Switch is really trying to like pull the gaming companies together and have content support on both consoles. With that being said, looking at this week in Nintendo Switch news, we have, Smash Brothers DLC coming out. It came out this past Friday, 2 Fridays ago or so, and that was Joker from Persona 5, a new fighter. And Persona 5 is a PS3 game with a remaster on PS4. It is very JRPG. Persona 3 and 4 are PS2 games with some PS3 compatibility, and so...
Which you played Persona 3, right?
I mean, I played Shin Megami Tensei. Like,
Okay.
I've played the DS version.
Okay.
But, like, I haven't played Persona.
Yeah.
So have you played Persona?
Yo, I played Persona 5, and it is very JRPG. It's you're a high school student during the day, and when I say high school student, I mean
You're JRPG high school student.
You got to talk to your friends.
Oh, wow.
You got to talk to the girl you like. You got to be on class on time. It's High School Simulator.
Oh, wow.
And then at night, it's a turn-based, like you're a superhero kind of thing. So it is very much like a
Right.
Clark Kent, and then you turn into a superhero. So I was super excited to see Joker join.
Yeah,
Smash.
I think a lot of us don't think it's a big deal, but Nintendo, like historically, has been very close knit with when we have a Smash Brothers fighter game, it's only Nintendo fighters. But we saw Snake from Metal Gear Solid in, I guess, Smash Brothers Brawl. Way back in the day.
Yep.
And then having Joker come in from Persona is a pretty awesome thing.
Yeah.
The fighter's really great. Really enjoy the mechanics, and he actually has. I haven't played Persona 5, obviously, but Nintendo always tends to take things from the franchise it came from and make the characters really organic, and like it brings back the nostalgia of the game it came from. So that's really cool. And then
one thing about that too, it was adding on to that. I have not played Persona as well, but I've heard a lot of things. They didn't just put them in there with the stage and the music, but there are other characters from the games. The actual the final when you win as Joker, like the end screen, the victory screen,
right.
it's actually
it
like
harkens
stuff.
back to the Persona game.
And that's one of the best parts of Persona too, is the victory, the music and the art style is so unique. I love to hear that they were true to the game.
They literally did a lot of fan service, it sounds like, to that game. So it makes me want to play, which is something that I don't know if it's on purpose. It makes me want to go back and play those games because I have not experienced that.
Yeah.
But seeing this, it's like, that looks like it's a lot of fun. So.
Yeah. It'd be really cool to see what Smash Brothers brings for the rest of their fighters. This is like their DLC fighter 1 of 5. So there's 4 more to come all the way through next February, I believe.
Oh, wow.
And so, I'm gonna segue into this, but we have a lot of Microsoft stuff coming to Switch now, with Cuphead specifically, and I'd love to see some Microsoft characters or maybe some characters from Square Enix come in and be a part of the Smash Brothers franchise.
Master Chief in Smash.
The hard read is Master Chief right now.
Zidane, Garnet, any Final Fantasy 9 character.
Right.
Oh man!
But it's been a pretty banner week for Switch releases. Obviously, Final Fantasy X. Is it X or 10?
It's 10.
Okay, so it's Final Fantasy 10 and 10-2 coming out. They're the HD remasters.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, like Final Fantasy 10 is like one of the best Final Fantasy games to play.
Yeah.
They just had Final Fantasy 9. Was it 9? Or was it, I believe it was 9.
Remastered?
Not the remastered one.
Oh.
Well, 7 came out a few weeks ago, or a month ago.
It wasn't
or so.
7. 7 was for PS4. They haven't had 7 yet. We'll get a fact check on that.
Switch is bringing a lot.
Yeah,
Switch
is bringing Switch and
Switch
Xbox.
is bringing a ton of Final Fantasy games. Final Fantasy X being the most recent. Really great game.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it. I've never played Final Fantasy X before.
Yeah.
My segue into, I always thought Final Fantasy was kind of like this Sony thing only.
Mm-hmm.
And so I never had a PS3 or PS2 growing up. And so my first Final Fantasy game was Final Fantasy 13 for Xbox with Lightning. And so having like such an equivocal game in the Final Fantasy franchise at your fingertips is really great. And it feels really good on Switch too. Like you're not gonna love like the port's just really, really well done. And you get the whole story. It's really, really fascinating.
It just makes my heart happy that you're playing through older Final Fantasy.
Right. I mean,
that's awesome.
I'm excited. I think I mentioned this a couple podcasts ago. I still haven't decided yet on which console I want to play it on, because I want Final Fantasy 7. I want 10, because when I played 10, I played it through a buddy of mine on his PlayStation. Because I didn't have a PS2. I had the I had the GameCube. GameCube was PS2 and Xbox, or that same.
Right.
So I had Xbox and GameCube. I never had a PS2, and 10 was like the premier Final Fantasy experience. It was like the first Final Fantasy experience on PS2, I think, right?
Yeah, it was the first to really where like 7 was the first 3D proper.
Yes.
10 was the first to actually leverage
and
hardware.
And then voice acting and all that stuff. Too, right?
And the first voiced one, yeah.
So I played that through his whenever I was over hanging out at his house, and I always wanted to try more of it, and instead of little bite-sized session. So
That's great.
I want to do it. I still haven't decided. I know both y'all's arguments, and I love that. I have to pick Xbox
Switch
or
all the way, boys.
Switch.
I would do Switch too. I mean, as long
okay.
as you're not invested in Final Fantasy VIII, you're good.
Yeah, because it's like what lost to
the only
time.
one. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
gone forever.
Yeah, I don't know if it's.
It's on Steam.
It is.
It's on Steam.
I think it's a source code thing.
It is,
I won't get into that without fact checking.
No,
it,
I think you're right. The rumors are Final Fantasy VIII is gone because they lost the source code or
That's
something.
amazing.
I can't believe that.
That's
but
amazingly horrid.
it is. It's terrible. That's one thing I do love about these consoles bringing back backwards compatible games
Yeah.
and stuff is that it is almost like an archive of all
Totally.
these old games.
Yeah.
So I love that. Keep doing that.
Yes.
Sorry that you lost the source code.
Game preservation is a thing.
It is.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, so as far as nostalgic Nintendo news, first off, Nintendo Switch has just officially outsold the N64 for consoles.
Wow.
So as far as
crazy.
like as of last Thursday, Nintendo Switch has sold 34.7 million units, and the N64 sold 32.9 million units.
Wow.
That's-
I was reading my show notes to my wife this morning. We were having breakfast, and she doesn't play video games. She did play the 64, and I was like, man, John has that, like, it outsold, the Switch outsold the 64. She's like, that's sad. And I'm like, why? The Switch is awesome. He's like, Nintendo 64 is awesome. And I'm like, okay, yeah.
I think there's
all
a
right.
place for both.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for my N64 Classic.
Oh, I
That's
know,
my hope.
I know.
It's probably not going to happen.
Well, that's the only problem is Microsoft owns Rare, and Rare had so many of those great
True.
N64
Right.
games.
Yeah.
So.
And Switch, if you just want, you can just bring me a virtual shop. That'd be great too.
Oh,
A
please, virtual console.
shop. Anyway, that all being aside, it is the 30th anniversary of the original Game Boy.
Nice.
1989, the original Game Boy came out, and I was not born in 89. I was born in 92, but when I turned 4 years old, they gave me a Game Boy to play. And so
They being
They-
who?
my parents.
Okay,
Sorry.
just
my
making
parents.
sure.
came down.
You go to a son, came and just
It came
bestowed
down
it
from
to
the
you.
heavens. It was in a Zelda chest. It was above my
You
head
will
for a
play
while.
this.
But yes, I had a green Game Boy, and it was
Nice.
like the best thing that I've ever had. Like, it was just
That's
a
awesome,
mind-blowing console
Yes.
for what it was back in the day. And so I just want to harken back on a nostalgia trip.
Yes.
What were some of the best Game Boy games you've played? I know for me personally, Metroid 2 and Pokemon.
Yeah.
Which Pokemon was near the end of the life cycle for Game Boy.
Yeah, I was
but that
gonna
came
ask.
out in 98.
Yeah. When you brought this the 30th anniversary up, I had no idea it was coming up. I looked at the list of original Game Boy games, and I was surprised to see that Pokemon was on there because
Yeah.
it was like I can't remember because it straddled the line between color and original Game Boy.
Yeah.
And then even the trading links were kind of different on each Game Boy, so that was a thing with Pokemon too.
Yes.
Oh, it's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
because the link to that's right.
So Pokemon Blue and Red were originally for the original Game Boy. Pokemon Yellow came out when Game Boy Color got released.
Yes.
But Blue and Red actually had some compatibility with color, but it only gave you one color
Yeah.
in the screen. Like, it wasn't multicolored like Nintendo, like Yellow
Yeah.
was.
No
And
backlight
so-
either.
So
So,
Right.
did Yellow have a release for the original Game Boy? We have a copy of Yellow here.
So yeah,
on our
we
set.
do have an actual original copy of Pokemon Yellow, and it does say Game Boy.
Yeah, it doesn't say Game Boy Color.
Yeah, it's not Game Boy Color, but it actually offered you like multiple colors on your screen as you played. And so it was a really cool thing to have Pokemon come out right after the end of the original Game Boy, but also kind of really boosted sales for Nintendo, like took it to the next level. And obviously Pokemon is so iconic now.
Yeah.
I
But-
love that. Literally, amount of colors shown on a screen is like a selling point for
I
a
know.
game. It's like,
We've come a
man,
long way.
now
Yeah.
with 2 colors.
yeah, totally.
that's awesome.
Yeah, so going through that list of games, the biggest things that came out for me was a link to the past.
Is it Link's Awakening?
Or
Or is it
for
Link's
me,
Awakening?
I played Link's Awakening. That was one of my favorite ones. That was
Link's
the
Awakening
Windfish-
was the Game Boy one, and then A Link to the Past was Super Nintendo.
That was
right?
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I get to cheat because literally we also have a copy of that right now. So, but yeah, that was an incredible experience for me. That was actually an introduction into a totally different type of game, like
yeah.
a adventure story RPG kind of situation. I can remember stealing from like the shop.
Oh, yeah.
Like you go around
There
the
you go.
shopkeeper, and I was like, the AI is incredible.
Well,
I'm
when
like,
you steal-
I'm smarter than the shopkeeper.
The best part about that though is when you actually leave, everybody in the game calls you thief.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh, totally, yeah.
your game is literally your name is thief
It
for the
knows-
rest
it
of the game.
knows who you are.
It's
It is
totally cool, yeah.
hilarious, yeah.
So-
But no, Link's Awakening, yeah, that one was one that just stood out to me that I loved, and I'm so excited that they're actually remaking that for the Switch. You guys have saw,
Yeah,
you see,
it looks
Yes.
really great. Yeah.
oh, they're not just literally just porting it. They are remaking the whole game with updated graphics and a whole new look. It looks so great. And
the art just looks incredible.
Animation
design.
Yeah, and it was a different game, a different Zelda game than previous Zelda games and ones after that too. It wasn't, Hyrule and you're facing Ganon or whatever. It was
you're
very
on
different.
an island, right?
You're
Is that what it was?
Yep, the windfish is a thing. Not to spoil anything, but it's definitely
spoilers.
I'm not. Yeah, it's a very old game, but it's something that if you haven't played it, you'll get to experience that soon on the Switch.
That's awesome.
But yeah,
maybe I'll be done with Sekiro by then, and I'll pick it up.
Dude, new game plus. I don't know. That's the thing.
Ninth playthrough.
I will say though, like as a shameless plug, I was a big Power Rangers guy back in the day.
Oh yeah,
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for the original Game Boy.
Oh, I played that as well.
Time.
Yeah,
that was the best thing ever.
Man, and the difficulty was just
so good.
Hitting
putties and stuff, and Rita and all
man.
that. Oh, crazy. We would be remiss to not have some news about Microsoft and Xbox a little bit. Brandon, what's going on with Xbox this week?
They did announce new hardware. We talked about some rumors in the previous podcast, but they finally announced the Xbox One S All Digital Edition.
What do they call it?
Say
the name.
Yeah, the street name is
do the name
the
thing.
Xbox One Sad Edition.
Yes.
No, it's actually. I think it's a smart experiment to see where the future is, because we're towards the end of the Xbox One life cycle. We're obviously talking about the future next gen consoles. So I think that Microsoft is throwing this out there as a, hey, let's see how this does. It's something that we can put out there. Maybe people really have a desire for it, and if so, we can look at that for the future. But what this console is, just like the name sounds, it's all digital. There is no disk drive on this.
Is that
console.
the only difference? Is the
pretty
hard drive
much the only thing? It is only. And in fact, they have this little commercial that's kind of funny, very self-aware, but it's there. I think it's a little minute commercial where it's the design team trying to figure out, what do we do? How do we innovate? And they finally figured out, what if we just delete the drive? And it's a really funny commercial if you go check it out. But
a price change due to that, right?
Yes. And so this is the thing that makes the whole sad thing for me, is the price. I was expecting with them doing this, they're taking out a big part of the console for a lot of people. For me, I'm already all digital, so it doesn't really matter much. But for a lot of people,
I love a physical copy of some games.
Yeah, and that's great. And that's the thing is, especially for people who don't have a ton of internet bandwidth, it's nice to be able to pop a disc in instead of having to download the whole game and everything. So the price was supposed to be something I thought was going to be really cheap. I was thinking, maybe $199 or so.
It's a big trade-off.
Yeah, it's a big trade-off. So it actually came out $249, which is a little bit higher than I expected. However, they did have a caveat in there. They said, which
if
is
you
very,
trade in, I don't know.
Well, no, it's very interesting how they worded this. They said that it is always going to be priced $50 cheaper than the Xbox One S. Now, the Xbox One S technically is $299, even though you can find it a lot of places for $249.
Right.
Meaning that any kind of sales, anything like that, if the Xbox One S goes down to that $249 price, the all digital edition is going to go down $50 as well. It's always going to be lower than that.
So is the key to wait?
The key is probably to wait. If you're going to get it now, again, if it's sub 200 price, that's a great entry to a whole slew of games. It does come with 3 digital games as well. You got Minecraft, you got Sea of Thieves, which just had their anniversary update, a lot of new content. And it comes with Forza Horizon 3, not 4, which is very interesting. But it's still, 3 is a great game too. Yeah. It comes with those built in, and it is a great console for the Game Pass subscription, because you can't really buy discs anymore for that. You just go and buy and download games.
What's default hard drive space on the Xbox One?
It is a 1 terabyte hard drive, which is good, because some consoles, I think anything less than 1 terabyte is kind of silly.
And you're going to want an external drive anyway.
You're going to have,
point,
I mean, I've actually just got an SSD, an external SSD for my Xbox One X, which is nice to have all that. So that's a great thing. You're going to want that, because if it's all digital, you're going to have a lot of space taken up by these games. But yeah, that's going to be great. I think they also announced a combo, because Xbox Live is still a thing. Xbox Live / Game Pass. I think they're calling it. it's something ultimate. It's some subscription, but they're combining both subscriptions into one subscription. It doesn't necessarily make it super cheap. It's the same price if you were to buy a 12-month subscription of Xbox Live, which is $60, and then Game Pass is $10 a month. So I think it's like $15 a month for both services, which is not bad. For me, I'm still sticking. For those who don't have those subscriptions, wait, because there's always a deal out there. I usually will buy a 12-month,
like $40.
Yeah, $40.
Yeah.
In fact, for Game Pass, I think I mentioned this before too. It's $10 a month, so $120 for a year. At Black Friday, I got a 12-month subscription for $69. So
nice.
And there are tons of Twitter accounts out there that post those deals like that all the time.
It's there if you want to try, a month-to-month basis. But
Yeah.
It's pretty cool what they're doing. So we'll see what happens.
Awesome. Well, with that, we appreciate you guys for tuning in to episode 4 of the Gaming Casuals podcast. If you want to hear from you guys, please subscribe, hit that notification bell. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the whole 9. Let us know what you think of the podcast, what you want to see in the next episode. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you soon for our next episode.
Time to go
See ya.
see Avengers Endgame.